So there are two foreign people that we've been trying to get in touch with all evening. One, both Italian, one is called Can You Hear Me?
Yeah.
Is Cesare, Can You See Me?
Yeah.
Now, here he is.
Yes. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Yes.
Yeah. All right. Fantastic. Miracles of technology. 2023. Okay. Should I start saying something, or can I start?
What I thought was, because the amazing film that you and Chiara and everybody developed, it has no soundtrack. So I thought, if you're talking while we show 6 painters and a computer.
Okay, but can I make a brief introduction first of all? Can I? Okay, just a short one. Okay, first of all, I wish to thank Adrian and Sean, because they've done a fantastic work. I mean, I didn't even know that something that a machine like a Quantel Paintbox, would deserve a 50th anniversary celebration. But that's all right. I mean, it's come around and it's great. But Adrian also didn't only organize the exhibition and this evening in London, but also he managed and chased after images that were thought to be lost, like those of David Hockney or Keith Haring or others. And he made it possible for me to chase after some of my wife's images that I had lost completely, and I found them again thanks to Adrian. So the other thing is that a celebration like this one of a machine like the Paintbox, of an instrument like the Paintbox, is highly unusual and unique, because I was thinking just a few days ago that, for example, nobody ever made a celebration of the first time Ivan Sutherland showed, moving with a pencil on the screen, that it was possible to actually do something with a pencil on a monitor. And then there was no celebrations of, for example, basic items in this history of computer graphics, like the birth of Silicon Graphics in California, and all the stuff that Evans and Sutherland put out, or even the software of Renderman by Lauren Carpenter, formerly Pixar. This is quite a unique occasion, and I hope that everybody realizes how unique it is. Also, I understand that Peter Owen is in the audience, and I wish to say hello to him, because we had a few adventures together in the old days.
So you can see him.
Oh, hello, Peter.
Cesare.
Hello.
Yeah. How are you?
Great seeing you.
Remember going to Fiat?
Fiat was quite an adventure. Peter brought down on the Quantel airplane, private plane, a complete set of Paintbox to show to the design department, to the designer, the head of the design department, who was very convinced about using the instrument. But we sort of faced a local mafia, and the deal didn't go through, unfortunately. It's not unusual. It's Italy, so if we talk about local mafia, you'll understand what I mean. Okay, and also I wish to thank Paul Keller, because he was so instrumental in getting all this done. Okay, in 1981, I must say that in 1982, when we bought the Paintbox, my wife Chiara and I already have some 5 years of experience with analog and digital special effects in Los Angeles. And we had a close connection with the original Pixar team at Catmull and Lauren Carpenter, Javier A. Smith, and the others. And then I was already using the special effects machine, the DPE something 5001, I think, of Quantel. for special effects in Paris. And then it happened that I went to Newbury one day, and then in the fall of '81, and they showed me, Paul Keller showed me the Paintbox in pieces. And I phoned up my wife and told her, look, here we have what I think for us should have been the instrument for computer graphics. This is what the real thing should be. That is a combination of software and hardware, fully transparent to the user, so that to make a creative work workable, feasible, and take the artist on into other dimension of creativity. This is what the Paintbox did for us. And I think it did for the whole industry of television and cinema, with later on other instruments by Quantel. But this is the fundamental item that I wish to underline about the strength of this instrument, to make to bring the graphic artist creativity onto another dimension. It was a totally new step. Okay, so one of the works we did after we created computer video film was this video. Well, actually, it was a 3 months long experience with 6 painters that actually came to CVF in Paris and sat down at the Paintbox with sometimes Chiara Boeri as a helper, sometimes, most of the times, Christian Janicot, and they created the images that you are going to see now. This was done in 1985, and it was shown as SIGGRAPH to an astounded audience, in fact. It was uploaded for several minutes, and because nobody had ever seen anything like this. And it was the very first time that the computer graphics instrument was actually used by actual painters, not just people that were graphic artists, which is a very honorable position and the type of work. But these were painters, some of them well known. And later on, a few months later, a very famous painter, Robert Matta, the Chilean painter Robert Matta, came to CVF and worked for several days and made completed a project that was called Metamorphose, which was shown in the context of his personal show that was organized at Centre Pompidou in Paris. So these are some of the images, and you see that in the end they are fairly simple, but at the same time you understand how the different personalities could use the Paintbox as a really unique kind of easy instrument to learn how to paint. I mean, you've seen the David Hockney images, and here you see other painters that in a way show the flexibility of the instrument, so that you don't notice that it is a Paintbox. You notice the artist and the artist's work. And I think this is exactly what I meant before by bringing the whole area of design into a new dimension.
Why did you pick each of these artists? Can you remember?
Well, I mean, it was not an easy choice. I mean, first of all, I must say that we owe Jack Lang, the then Minister of Culture in Paris, a lot of the things that we did at CVF in terms of creative work, purely creative work, because he financed entirely this project that was proposed by Chiara and was refined within an organization within the ministry that was called Plan Recherche Image, which was created and funded especially by the ministry, by the minister himself, in fact, with a fairly large budget to help launch the digital video industry in France. Because audio was already very well established, digital audio, with IRCAM at Centre Pompidou. That was set up in 1976. So here we come several years later, and there was nothing, there was very little in terms of digital imaging in France, except for Sogitech and Renault, and a few other attempts that didn't go very far, except for Sogitech. That was concerned only with 3D images, in fact, not 2D. And there was an attempt to make a sort of paint system that was really horrible in the end and was abandoned, fortunately. But Jack Lang put a lot of money into the Plan Recherche Image to stimulate the creation of new companies, like Computer Video Film was the first one and the most well-known to come out of that plan, and also financed projects like this one. Which was quite a unique attempt in the panorama of French art scenery. Now, how the 6 were chosen, in fact, it was not really a choice. It was more painters that said no than the ones that said in the end yes. Because we started out with some 15 names, and several people, after a couple of hours at CVF on the Paintbox, decided not to do anything with us or with the project. They didn't want to have anything to do with digital stuff, really. And few of them told us that they were not going to show some low-level incapacity, to use the exact words that I heard at that time. But these 6 ones held on and came and worked, learned how to use it, and did what you see.
No, you want to describe the setup? I believe you had the Paintbox at home. Oh,
in fact, I bought one of the very first Paintboxes. I think one of the first 10 or 5 even. We bought it in the fall of 1982, and my wife Chiara used to work on it at home. We had a very large loft apartment. It was a very beautiful loft, some 300 meters.
Paris, correct?
Pardon me?
Paris, we should point out.
It's in Paris, yes, in central Paris. We lived in central Paris in this former factory that was converted into a loft, and it was very large. And she had a whole part of the section of the loft upstairs for her own work. And we had the hardware downstairs, and the tablet and the monitor upstairs. And she painted there, and Jack Lang came there one evening and spent more than 2 hours with her and a couple other people that accompanied him. And that decided Jack Lang to put a lot of money into several projects in development of digital art, of which Sea Peintre is certainly the most well-known example. I mean, at least it was very well-known at the time. Then it got lost when CVF was converted, was taken over by Microsimage in 1985, at the end of 85. And it was sort of left abandoned in a corner at INA, Institut National de l'Audiovisuel. But it was shown on television in France, in Japan, and Belgium. And it was shown again years later after the SIGGRAPH show, it was shown at the SIGGRAPH in the East. I don't remember which year, but it was like the late 80s, I think.
So didn't you say the cat enjoyed the paint box? Your
Pardon me?
cat.
Pardon me?
You said that your cat enjoyed the paint box.
Yes, indeed. Yes. Oh, here is Kiki Picasso, one of my favorite artists that came to work at CVF very often with his advertisement work. He brought a lot of advertisement work to work on the paint box, but he didn't work on the paint box himself. He had our operators work on it. The first one that was hired by Chiara was Hervé Bourgeois, who is an architect and a remarkable architect who is now has now his own studio in southern France. And Hervé did a lot of the best of our advertising. And then there was Stéphane Drouet a little later, and then Christian Janicot. And then at one time we had 9 or 10 graphists for 2 paint boxes that were working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, in fact. At CVF, that was the big difference that we had inside the company, unfortunately, was that we had an extremely strong and unique graphics department run by my wife. And then I never managed to have an equally strong editing group of editors, unfortunately. And when we had to do some really complex work, I had to call in some of my friends from London, like Greg Griffiths or Peter Cartwright or others, because we didn't have people up to that quality. And in France, for a long time, there were no really very good video editors for a very long time. The first ones, in fact, I think I saw were at the beginning of the 90s, not before.
So you explained about Charlotte Rampling.
Oh, okay. I think that the main besides this event, we organized also some unique things in Paris. There was a yearly show of computer graphics that was coupled with the Imagina in Paris, but this was in Monte Carlo, but this was also held in Paris at the beginning of December. And we cooked up the idea one evening at dinner with the organizer of the event to have the paint box in the middle of the Cirque d'Hiver with Chiara sitting down in front of the tablet and the monitor, and there are about 1,000 people in the audience, and the Cirque d'Hiver right in the middle of where the animals or the actors would normally stay. There was just this small island, lit by a projector on top. And in the second year, in fact, in 1984, we had all of a sudden, Chiara asked, does anybody want to ask a question or what? And Charlotte Rampling got up, and she came close to the paint box and said, why don't you take a picture of me with the video camera that you have here, and then let's do something together with it, with the images you have. And so they started chatting and drawing and changing her face, etc., etc. And it lasted about a good half an hour, and people were laughing because it was a very relaxed conversation. All the while, Chiara was painting and Charlotte Rampling was chatting and entertaining the audience. So it was a good evening. And the second time we had a big show was at the opening of the new palace building of L'Oréal in Paris. And there again, we had some 50 monitors spread around the floors and the rooms. And we had Chiara and two other, Hervé and Christian, I think, alternate because the show lasted like from 6 in the evening to about 3 in the morning or 4 in the morning. And that was also a big success. But the biggest thing, in my opinion, that I organized really was the use of the Paintbox at the inauguration of the new Science Museum in Paris in March 1986. The museum was inaugurated by Mitterrand and Jacques Lang on the same evening as the Halley comet was closest to Earth, and there was the Giotto spacecraft that was taking images fairly close up to the comet, and they were downloaded to Darmstadt in Germany. And they were converted there inside a black box that I built with a German engineer. We transformed into a video signal sent over to the Eiffel Tower and then to us at the museum, and downloaded onto the Paintbox. And Chiara, in live and in color, as we say, redrew the images that were distributed around the monitors in the museum, mixed with there were also 3 cameras to film the inauguration, and the whole thing was shown on Nintendo in real time, and in some other 20 TV stations around the world. I don't recall exactly which ones, but I remember that the Japanese NHK was always very happy to do something with us. And that was certainly a case on that occasion. So these are, let's say, the 3 events that I can quote from those years and in Paris.
So Cesare, when I met you in so Cesare's Italian, I met Cesare in Verona,
Right.
and you explained. So actually, you must bring up these images here. So the Paintbox was used. There was lots of people who used it in a way, artists that Quantel would never imagine.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Also
Indeed.
was used for things that you would never imagine either. And
Yes.
you told me at the time the biggest purchaser of the Paintbox in Italy and what they were used for. Do you want to share that story?
Okay. Okay. That's a very unusual thing. Yes. Even Quantel didn't believe it. But you know, okay, there is this company in southern Italy, but more in southern Italy, and especially in 2 or 3 regions in southern Italy, Apulia and Sicily. Apulia is the region just across from Greece, across the Adriatic Sea, facing Greece and Albania. So there are these companies that still now they used to do it by hand, but now they do it with Paintbox, and now certainly with Photoshop. And they colorized images of dead people, and the images were colorized and repainted, and making people look good and so on, to be exhibited on the tombs of the dead people. Wasn't this was by hold on the images just a minute. Let me finish this little story. And so this company decided to buy a Paintbox, and then they bought number 2 and number 3 and number 4 and number 5. They had 5 Paintboxes fully and only dedicated to colorizing and beautifying images of dead people.
For the tombstones to be stuck up.
For the tombstones, yes.
So basically, what we now know is the biggest collection of Paintbox art is in cemeteries dotted around Puglia.
Right, exactly.
So can we quickly flick through some of these images?
Okay, this is by one of the graphics that somebody that worked a lot there with us and took over Chiara's job after she left in 1987. This is by Christian Janicot, and the following one is by what's his name?
Eve.
Yves Chaman, yes. Okay. And then this one is by my wife, Chiara, and was exhibited at SIGGRAPH, like the preceding one also was exhibited at SIGGRAPH. And this was done in 1984. Okay, this is a unique piece of work by Chiara. It's a huge tapestry, 3 by 3 meters. The back of this one is called Faust Fragments. And the back of it is the actual original output of the graphics Paintbox. And the front is has been repainted over in many ways with acrylic oil painting, etc., to make all this. And it was exhibited at the 2003 SIGGRAPH at the very entrance. When they saw it, when the piece arrived in Austin, they decided to hang it at the entrance of the exhibition. Okay, this is another tapestry by my wife. It's called White on White, and it's 140 by 140 centimeters, and it's hanging in my studio. This one is a 140 by 40 centimeters print on canvas, also by Chiara, and it's called Illusions, I think, if I remember correctly. And this was one of the original work that was the first one shown at SIGGRAPH in 1984. It's called Blue Dream. And this is one of the latest works. It's one of the abstracts. So from 2015 on, she drew only abstract works. And this is one of the 5 where there is a declination from one to the other, as if in the same vein as you know, the paintings of Cézanne's La Montagne Saint-Victoire. That is, instead of a study of changing lights, it's a study of changing colors and shapes. And from one painting to the other, they move on, changing shapes and colors. And this is Pegasus, which was the very first one that we printed as a test on an aluminum sheet, 140, I think, or 120 by 90, something like that. And it's 1983. This is in another of the big jobs we had at CVF. We were, pardon me?
Sorry to interrupt you, but this computer-aided design was in its infancy. And so here, I think it's really an important image.
Yeah.
This
Okay. This is very important because it was a major project in 1985-86 that Jack Lang gave us, especially asked Chiara to follow up. Mitterrand had decided to renew a number of buildings in Paris, and 5 of them were called the 5 big projects of Mitterrand. In fact, since Louis XIV, there had never been such a huge, renewal with monumental buildings in Paris. And Jack Lang had the idea of asking Chiara to construct simulations of the 5 buildings in both still images and animated images to substitute for the maquette. How do you call maquette in English? I don't know.
Architectural maquette, yeah.
Yeah, the architects usually make in with wood and other materials to present their work, the project. And so the five architects came to CVF, and the work lasted months and months. And we worked both with 3D, Wavefront Technologies 3D software running on two Silicon Graphics workstations and a Sun workstation for rendering, because we had too much work, so that we couldn't do modeling and animation and colorization and so on, and rendering at the same time on the machine. So we bought a Sun workstation to do just the rendering. This is the Grand Arche de la Défense, which is a strange story, because the idea was to sort of close the perspective from the Arc de Carrousel de Louvre that goes through the Tuileries and the Place de la Concorde and Arc de Triomphe, etc., etc., and then it's an open air that goes down to Brittany, several attempts were made to find a solution to closing that perspective, and finally this one was accepted by the Danish architect, who didn't come to the presentation, by the way. This cube was supposed to rotate on itself, so that in fact the perspective would be continuously open and closed and closed and open according to the hours of the day and the seasons. And it was a wonderful idea, in fact. But then when we came down to when the architect came down to the actual decision on how to make it work, the rotation of such a huge artifact, and the architects of the city of Paris said, no way, we cannot do it. So he gave up and took away his project, left the project in the hands of his associate, Paul Andreu, with whom we worked a lot also. And so this is what happens. And this is the final image of what the building looks like, sort of. It's more glassy. As it was built, it was more glassy outside than the architect actually wanted it to be. Anyway.
So, Cesare, thanks for the, again, it's the introduction to the massive amount of work you did. So are you open to researchers or people contacting you and explaining and talking about what you've done? Because you've never done this before.
It brings me back to a long time ago. Anyway, then I created another company in Milano in 1993, where we had the paintbox, the graphic paintbox, and we did a lot of work also in that company. But I left it in '95 because I wanted to do other things. And in fact, now I'm totally out of all these areas of graphics, television, and so on. And I'm busy with a new company that I just created that is concerned with water and saving water.
Thank you very much.
Thank you a lot for the time. And I hope I wasn't too, I don't know, that my English was reasonable and that I wasn't too long in explanations and so on. Anyway,
You're great.
so, thank you again, and Adrian, thank you so much for organizing all this.
You're welcome. It's a group effort.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Well done. You got there in the end. I showed the Keith Haring thing online, didn't I?
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that's it. We stopped or we're still on?
We can end if we feel.
Oh, well, just say goodbye.
Yeah.
So I said it in that short thing, but see, yep. What's she on?
No,
Oh, she's that way. She might be walking. But Sean, thanks again for being a massive supporter.
Just add that we'll take as much of this content as possible and put it on the YouTube and the web, so.
Please edit off the first 5 hours.
Yeah.
I like it.
We'll discuss about how much we're able to put on and
Yeah.
the
no,
YouTube.
you're fine.
Send us an email. if they
I didn't, I left off music, so it won't be an issue. And just to reiterate, thanks to you and the British Computer Society and all of you who came as well, which is fantastic to see you all. And it is, I always say that when I meet somebody who's never heard of the Paintbox, I always say, the fact that your question when I say, oh, have you heard of the Quantel Paintbox? And you go, what's a Quantel Paintbox? And as you heard tonight, it's an amazing thing. But the fact that they say, what is it? It's the success of the company, which is a very humble English company that changed the world, that changed so many things that you don't know about. And it's fantastic that we're appreciating that on this 50th anniversary, which has literally got, the 50th anniversary year has got, what, 17 days left. So I'm really happy to be able to celebrate it. And hopefully this inspires others to look into it and appreciate
Fingers
it
crossed.
even
We'll
more.
have a paint box. If anybody was a paint box artist back in the day, fancies coming making an image, we can.
Anyone in New York, I have a paint box. You're free to come on it anytime, as long as it's not commercial work. But
£400 an hour.
yeah, you have to pay me $300 an hour. But yeah, basically anyone can come on it free of charge, get that experience, because as Nancy said, there's nothing like the experience. You can watch a video, you can see all these things, but just getting that pen and swiping it and all the rest of it. I've had, 20-year-olds and they're like, where do you swipe off the cursor? And I'm like, wherever the cursor is. They go, where do I close that box? And I say, there's no box that you have to press. It just will go off. And it's an amazing piece of user interface. But literally, a guy who was doing 3D VR things said, what's amazing is when you see beta software, it looks exactly like the Quantel user interface before they put all the bells and whistles and graphics and branding on it. And that's the thing, it's pure enjoyment and pure simplicity. And it's nice to go back to this. The other thing is that people go, the Paintbox is 80s graphics. And I said, well, it's like saying Photoshop is 90s photography. It's still a valid machine. And as I say, I'm looking forward to new artists creating new work on it and bring it back to life. It's not a steam engine or whatever. It's still as valid. So thank you, Peter. Come on, Anna. Twice.
Well, no, I think we should say thank you to Adrian.
Well
And, and he's collecting all things Quantel. And my wife certainly will thank him very much, because here I have a bag full of stuff for Adrian. Loads of 35mm slides here that were made in the way that Adrian described. They were done on Paintbox. And they had this film recorder which did a lot of interpolation to get rid of the lines. And they stand up really well. They're not HD, they're Paintbox.
Yeah.
So there you go. There's a bag full of slides and a bag full of brochures.
Happy 50th. Thank you, everybody. Oh, Kim, quick, goodbye.
Sorry, catching up, sorry.
So, goodbye, everybody. Thank you very much.
Compliments for the presentation.
You're welcome.
You were
Hi, Cesare.
fantastic.
So, good luck. Feel better soon.